Marcus Adiemi came home early expecting peace. Instead, he froze at the sight of his wife kicking an 8-year-old girl, the maid's black daughter. What he did next shocked his entire city. The elevator doors parted to the private penthouse and released a hush that felt unusual for a Friday. Too quiet for a household this big. Marcus Adiemi slipped his keycard back into his wallet, rolled the stiffness out of his shoulders, and listened. Somewhere distant, a television's volume lurched up, then down, like someone fumbling for the remote. The scent of lemon oil polish lingered in the foyer. Fresh, recent. He wasn't supposed to be here yet. A board member's flight had been cancelled. The investor dinner was postponed. For once, traffic on the FDR flowed. He'd texted Vivian he might be late. Maybe he should have said nothing at all. "Good afternoon, sir," called Daniel, the doorman, from the hall behind him. Marcus raised a hand in greeting without turning back. Habit. Polite, brisk, never lingering. That was how his life worked now. Efficient, measured, precise. He had built Adiemi systems that way. He loosened his tie as he moved past the gallery of family photos, a framed shot of Vivian at a charity gala, the two of them on a boat off Capri, another of Marcus handing a scholarship plaque to a Bronx valedictorian. He paused at that last one, as he always did. His mother's hands had scrubbed floors and lifted trays. His father's knuckles had split open on job sites where names like his were mispronounced and forgotten. He never forgot, not even here. A brittle sound, not the TV, cracked the stillness. Ceramic against stone. Marcus frowned. "Zara," he called softly, the way he always did when Carmen's daughter was around. He never shouted. He never called for the maid first. The little girl deserved to be a child, not an apology. No answer. He followed the noise down the hall, past the grand piano he rarely touched, past the whisper-weave Berber rug Vivian had bragged about to guests. His polished shoes clicked sharply against the marble, and then he saw it. The Ming-style vase, Vivian's favorite, lay in shattered blue and white pieces across the floor, tiny fragments scattered like ice. Beside it, little Zara trembled. 8 years old, knees scraped, eyes wide, sock twisted halfway off her foot. She clutched the edge of an ottoman, as if it could save her, and towering above her, Vivian, her ivory blouse unwrinkled, her stiletto tipped forward, voice like a blade. I said, "Don't touch what isn't yours." Marcus stopped cold. The child whimpered. Vivian's heel nudged a shard, sending it skittering. "Do you know what this vase costs? More than your mother makes in a year." Marcus's voice finally cut the air. "Vivian." She turned, mask snapping on instantly. The cruelty gone, replaced by a practiced smile. "Marcus, you're early." But Zara's tearful eyes locked on his, and in them, Marcus saw the truth. He thought he came home early to avoid a headache. Instead, he had just stepped into a nightmare that had been unfolding behind his back for years. "Zara," Marcus said softly, "step back from the glass." He muted the blaring television, lifted her onto the ottoman. Her sock was inside out. He fixed it without thinking. Vivian folded her arms. Carmen should have been watching her. "Where's Carmen?" Marcus asked. "Market run," Vivian replied breezily. "I told her to replace the cleaning spray." Marcus dabbed Zara's knee with a linen napkin. Blood smeared red against white. "Does it sting?" "Only when I breathe," Zara whispered. Vivian scoffed. "Marcus, really, you're indulging her. I saw her playing with the vase, pretending it was a microphone." "I wasn't," Zara blurted, then stopped, eyes darting fearfully to Vivian. Marcus leaned closer, gentle. "What scared you on the TV?" "The lady was yelling," Zara said, voice barely audible. Like Mrs. Vivian talks to me when Mum goes out." Vivian laughed, brittle. "Marcus, please, she's making excuses. Children lie." But Marcus had negotiated billion-dollar contracts. He knew body language. Zara's wasn't lying. It was fear, a learned fear. He looked at Vivian. "Did you kick her?" Vivian blinked, then smirked faintly. "I nudged her, to move her from the shards." Marcus's eyes dropped to Zara's shin, a faint red mark, shoe-shaped, fresh. Zara shrank against the ottoman, silent but pleading. Marcus wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding. But the next words from Zara's mouth would change everything. In the kitchen, Marcus gently cleaned the scrape. Blue bandage? He asked. Zara nodded. Brave. Blue. As he worked, he asked softly, "Does Mrs. Vivian say things like this often?" Zara's lips trembled. "She says, we should be grateful, that we wouldn't have these lights, this piano, if not for her." Marcus's chest tightened. Gratitude as a weapon. He knew that language too well. "She told me not to tell you," Zara whispered. "If I did, she'd hide jewelry in our bag and say Mom stole it. She showed me the bracelet." Marcus's hands froze. A trap. Deliberate. Zara clutched the counter. "She says girls like me need to remember our place, because of our color." The words dropped like stones. Marcus inhaled sharply, anger knotting in his throat. Carmen entered, grocery bags in hand. She froze at the sight of the bandage, of Zara's lowered head. Her eyes flicked to the hall, then quickly back to the floor. "Mr. Marcus," she said carefully. Marcus answered firmly. Not anymore. He wanted to believe it ended with a broken vase. But now he realized it had started much earlier and gone far deeper. Vivian swept into the kitchen. Elegant, composed, a socialite mask firmly in place. "We can sort this out," she said smoothly. "The vase is insured. The scratch is nothing." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Zara says you threatened her, said you'd frame her mother for theft." Vivian laughed, clear and practiced. "Absurd. You're letting a child manipulate you. I set standards. That's what keeps this house running." "Standards?" Marcus asked. "Or fear?" Before we get back into the story, if you're enjoying this story, hit the subscribe button now and let us know where you are watching from. Vivian's voice hardened. "You work 14-hour days. Who do you think keeps order here while you're gone?" "Me." "I correct. I discipline. That's not cruelty, that's reality." Marcus stared at her, cold clarity settling in. "Standards don't humiliate children," he said flatly. Vivian tilted her chin. "You're letting your past cloud your judgment. Don't forget, without me, you'd drown in this world." Her phone buzzed. She answered on speaker. A voice her mother's cut through. "You must be firm, Vivian. These people only understand boundaries." Marcus's hand closed around his own phone. Quietly, he pressed record. Vivian thought she was teaching order. But Marcus had just begun collecting evidence, and soon her own words would betray her. Vivian ended the call triumphant. "See? Perspective." Marcus stared, then turned his phone screen, red waveform recording every word. Her eyes widened. "Are you recording me?" He didn't answer. "Marcus, don't be ridiculous. You're not going to destroy our life because of one spoiled child and a broken vase." Marcus slipped the phone into his pocket. "I'm not destroying our life, Vivian. You already did." Footsteps. Carmen and Zara re-entered quietly. Zara's hand clutched her mother's. Fear lingered, but hope flickered. "Mr. Marcus," Carmen whispered, "do you still want us here?" "Yes," Marcus said firmly. "I want you both to hear this." Vivian smirked. "Hear what?" Marcus's voice cut steady as steel. "The new rules. Starting now. Fear is cancelled in this house." Vivian scoffed. "Cancelled. Cute." Marcus tapped his phone screen. The red recording symbol glowed like firelight. He was done asking questions. Now every mask would begin to crack. Marcus leaned against the marble counter, the red waveform from his recording still fresh in his mind. He replayed the image that had greeted him when he walked into the great room. Zara's shin marked red. Vivian's heel tilted forward, her voice dripping with contempt. Now, only minutes later, Vivian was back in character. Her posture softened. Her lips parted into a polished smile, the same one she used at charity galas when photographers hovered. To any stranger, she looked like elegance personified. But Marcus wasn't a stranger. He was her husband, and for the first time, he realized he had never actually known her at all. "Marcus," she said, her tone sugary, her hand brushing his sleeve. "You're exhausted. You're letting a child's dramatics unsettle you. This is beneath you." Marcus glanced past her to Zara. The little girl sat silently on the ottoman in the kitchen, shoulders hunched, hands folded tightly in her lap. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just sat. And that silence said more than any words ever could. Because silence like that was learned, rehearsed. The kind of silence that came from knowing that speaking the truth carried consequences. Vivian's smile widened, mistaking his pause for hesitation. "See? Even she knows this was just a silly accident. Children exaggerate. You of all people should understand that." Marcus's eyes stayed locked on Zara. The child wouldn't look at him directly, but her foot tapped, restless against the ottoman leg. Small, nervous movements. Telltale signs. He inhaled slowly, grounding himself. Years of boardrooms had taught him to remain calm when facing liars, but this wasn't business. This was his home, his wife, his family. "Vivian," he said at last, voice even, "stop pretending." Her smile faltered. Just for a second. Marcus wanted answers. But what he was about to hear from Zara would be worse than anything he had imagined. Marcus crouched again, leveling himself with Zara. His voice softened. "Zara, when Mrs. Vivian talks to you like this, is it only today, or does it happen when I'm gone?" The girl's eyes flickered nervously toward Vivian, then dropped to the floor. Vivian's laugh cut in. "Oh, Marcus, really? You're interrogating a child?" She broke a vase. "That's the beginning and end of this little drama." "Zara," Marcus said gently, ignoring his wife, "you can tell me. No one will hurt you. Not now, not ever." Zara bit her lip. Her small voice broke through the silence. "She talks like this when you're gone." The words were soft, but to Marcus, they were thunder. Vivian's smile froze. "Marcus, this is absurd. You know how children invent stories. She's deflecting blame, that's all." But Marcus knew deflection. He had built his career on exposing lies buried under polished surfaces, and Zara's voice wasn't lying. It was trembling with truth. Suddenly, past memories slammed into him. Carmen's eyes darting nervously whenever Vivian entered the room. Zara's forced politeness, her careful yes ma'ams that never quite sounded natural. The stiff silences at dinner parties when Carmen hovered in the background. All the little red flags he had ignored. Now they weren't flags, they were flashing sirens. Marcus looked at Vivian again, studying her face as if for the first time, and for the first time, he saw not the polished socialite he had married, but a woman capable of cruelty hidden behind porcelain smiles. For 3 years, Marcus thought he knew his wife. In the next few minutes, he would realize he didn't know her at all. The kitchen door creaked. Carmen stepped in, still clutching a grocery bag to her chest. Her eyes moved instantly to Zara's bandaged knee, then to Vivian's stiff posture, then to Marcus's expression. Something flickered across her face. Fear, controlled, but visible. "Mr. Marcus," she said softly, carefully, "is everything all right?" Vivian turned sharply. "Carmen, thank goodness. Please tell Marcus that your daughter was playing with the vase. She needs supervision." Carmen froze. The paper bag rustled in her tightening grip. Zara would not. She stopped herself. Her eyes dropped. Vivian smirked. "Exactly. Neglect." Marcus's voice cut in. "Carmen, look at me." Slowly, hesitantly, Carmen lifted her eyes. "Has Vivian spoken to you like this before?" Carmen's lips trembled. Silence stretched. Then barely a whisper. "Yes." Vivian's face hardened. "Oh, for heaven's sake, she's twisting things now to protect herself. Don't you see what's happening, Marcus? They're aligning against me." But Marcus wasn't looking at her. He was watching Carmen. The way her hands shook, the way she flinched at every word Vivian spoke. And he knew this wasn't new. This was a pattern. Carmen's trembling confession made one thing clear. This wasn't an accident. It was deliberate abuse, repeated in silence. Vivian dropped the mask entirely. Her voice lost its honey. Her words sharpened. "Marcus, listen to me. You work, I manage. That's our agreement. And part of managing is teaching boundaries. Children like her," she gestured dismissively toward Zara, "need to learn their place early, otherwise they grow up entitled, ungrateful, confused about the world." Marcus stared at her, cold fury burning beneath his calm exterior. "Standards," Vivian continued, pacing slightly. "That's all this is. Standards, respect for property, respect for hierarchy, gratitude for opportunities. Do you really want her thinking she's equal to us? To you?" Marcus said nothing. He only tapped his phone in his pocket. Recording, every word. Vivian scoffed at his silence. "Don't look at me like that. You think you're the savior here? Please. I am the reason this house runs without chaos. I am the reason you can build empires, because I keep order." Marcus's eyes narrowed. Order built on fear is not order, it's tyranny. Her lips curved into a cold smile. "Call it what you want. I call it reality." Vivian thought she was still in control, but with every word she spoke, Marcus was already building the case that would destroy her. Zara's small voice trembled through the tense silence. She said people like us will never be equal. The words hung heavy. Carmen's hand clutched her daughter's. Vivian rolled her eyes. Oh please, are we really going to let a child dictate truth now? Marcus, you're embarrassing yourself, siding with the help. Marcus's jaw clenched. The decision was made. No more questions, no more doubts. He looked directly at his wife. You've shown me who you are. I believe you. Vivian sneered. And what exactly do you plan to do about it? Marcus slipped his phone from his pocket, the recording still glowing red. He held it up just enough for her to see. Her face paled. I plan, Marcus said, voice steady as steel, to make sure this ends, today. He had been deceived for years. But the real game was only beginning. Marcus led Carmen and Zara into the den, closing the heavy oak door behind them. Away from Vivian's voice, the room felt smaller, warmer, safer. The flickering city lights spilled through the wide windows, but Zara clung tightly to her mother's hand as if the night itself were dangerous. Sit, Marcus said softly. He lowered himself so his tall frame didn't loom. His voice was steady now, not the CEO addressing a boardroom, but a man determined to shield a child. Carmen perched on the edge of the sofa, back rigid. Mr. Marcus, she whispered, please don't get involved in this. It will only bring trouble for us. I can endure anything, but if I lose this job. She shook her head, unable to finish. Marcus leaned forward. Carmen, listen to me. You will not lose this job. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. I owe you more than you know. Her eyes widened. He rarely spoke personally. My mother scrubbed floors just like you do, Marcus continued, his voice rougher now. I know what it means when the powerful use fear to keep you silent, and I won't allow that here, not under my roof. Carmen blinked rapidly, torn between gratitude and terror. She said she would ruin me, said no one would ever hire me again, that people like us should be grateful to even step foot in places like this. Marcus's jaw tightened. That ends tonight. He reached for Zara, who hesitated, then crawled carefully into his arms. He felt how small she was, how tense. A child who should have been carefree, but had already learned the weight of fear. I'm going to protect you, he said quietly, brushing her hair back. Both of you, no matter what it takes. But promises weren't enough. He knew Vivian. She would deny. She would twist. She would paint herself as the victim if given the chance. He needed something more. Proof. Unshakable evidence. He set Zara down gently. Stay here. Rest. Don't be afraid. From this moment you are not alone. Marcus rose, his decision made. The next step would determine everything. But before he could protect them, Marcus needed undeniable proof of Vivian's cruelty. Back in the hallway, Marcus moved quietly, phone in hand, recording app still glowing red. From the living room, Vivian's voice echoed, sharp, irritated, laced with venom. Yes, Mother. Marcus is being impossible. He walked in and saw me disciplining the maid's child, and now he thinks I'm some kind of monster. Her mother's voice murmured through the speaker, faint but audible. Darling, men like Marcus can be manipulated. He's too soft-hearted for his own good. Vivian laughed coldly. Exactly. He doesn't understand these people. Fear is the only language they know. I tell them to remember their place, and they do. Carmen knows she'd be finished if I ever accused her of theft. That's why she stays obedient. Marcus's stomach clenched. Every word confirmed what Zara had whispered. Vivian continued, her voice dripping arrogance. Marcus may be wealthy, but in this house, I am the authority. He doesn't have a clue what really goes on here, and he never will. Marcus lifted the phone closer. Evidence. Clear, undeniable evidence. But then something unexpected happened. Vivian lowered her voice, unaware she was being overheard. Don't worry, Mother. If Marcus makes this difficult, I'll activate Plan B. Marcus froze. Plan B? His pulse quickened. Vivian had a contingency. Something hidden, something dangerous. What Vivian didn't know. Marcus wasn't the only one listening anymore. Marcus stepped into his office, shutting the door firmly. His hands moved quickly across the keyboard, pulling up a secure line. He dialed a number he hadn't called in years. Diana Rodriguez, civil rights lawyer and trusted friend. She answered on the second ring. Marcus, this is a surprise. Diana, he said, voice low. I need your help. It's urgent. It involves psychological abuse, racial intimidation, and an 8-year-old child. Her tone shifted instantly. Tell me everything. He summarized quickly, the vase, the threats, the recordings, Vivian's words. Diana listened in silence, then spoke with precision. Marcus, you already have evidence, but you'll need more. People like Vivian don't fold easily. They escalate. Be prepared for backlash. I'm ready, he said. Good. I'll be there within the hour, and I'm bringing 2 investigators. Record everything from this point forward. Every word, every slip. Marcus exhaled slowly. Reinforcements. At last. As he hung up, he glanced back toward the living room. Vivian was still pacing, phone in hand, unaware her own voice had already condemned her. But Diana's warning echoed in his head. She will escalate. And Marcus knew. Vivian was already planning her next move. Vivian's next move would be darker and far more dangerous than Marcus expected. Marcus returned to the den, crouching in front of Carmen and Zara. A friend is coming, he said quietly. A lawyer. She's going to help us. But until then, I need you both safe in here. Do not open this door for anyone but me. Carmen nodded, eyes wide, clutching her daughter close. Marcus rose and moved back toward his office. He opened his laptop and prepared the trap, a live stream through his professional network, one followed by thousands of business leaders, journalists and influencers. One wrong word from Vivian, and the world would hear it in real time. He positioned hidden microphones, checked the feeds, tested the connection. The red light blinked steadily, waiting. In the living room, Vivian's heels clicked against the marble as she paced, still on the phone. Her voice was dripping with contempt. Marcus thinks he's clever, but if he sides with them, he'll regret it. I'll make sure of it. Marcus adjusted the tablet in his hand, the live stream 1 button away. The trap was set. She had no idea her own words would soon be broadcast to thousands of people at once. Vivian ended her call and poured herself a glass of wine, muttering as she swirled the liquid. Pathetic. All of them, especially that child. Fear is all it takes to keep her quiet. Marcus's finger hovered over the screen. 1 tap. Live. The feed lit up. Within seconds, viewers began to pour in. Names he recognized. CEOs, journalists, even board members. Vivian kept speaking. Oblivious. Honestly, it's almost funny. You just have to threaten their livelihood, and suddenly they're obedient. People like that should never forget their place. Her laugh echoed off the marble walls. The comments on Marcus's screen began to scroll rapidly. Shock, outrage, disbelief. And Vivian kept talking. If Marcus insists on playing the hero, I'll destroy him too. He doesn't understand. I always win. Marcus stepped forward, tablet in hand. Vivian, he said evenly. She turned, saw the blinking screen, the viewer count climbing. Her face drained of color. The world had just witnessed the first cracks in Vivian's empire, but her complete collapse was only beginning. The screen blinked. Then came the flood. Names began to stack up on Marcus's tablet. Executives, reporters, attorneys, donors, familiar faces from galas and boardrooms. The viewer count climbed. 700, 1,900, 3,400, and rising. Comments rolled like a river you could not dam. Are we hearing this right? This is abuse. Recording saved. Marcus held the tablet low, almost casual. He didn't look triumphant. He looked resolved. Vivian didn't sense the shift at first. She paced the length of the living room, wine glass in hand, heels tapping the marble like metronomes of control. I'm not the villain here, she said to the air, to herself. I run this house. I set standards. I correct what needs correcting. Somewhere behind the paneled wall, the intercom hummed softly. In the den, Carmen and Zara heard fragments, not hidden whispers anymore, words amplified by air and wires, and witness. Carmen's grip on Zara's shoulder loosened, just enough to let the child breathe. Marcus lifted the tablet a fraction. The camera caught Vivian in profile, immaculate blouse, the faintest tremor at her throat, a gaze trained by years of admiring rooms. You'll see, she murmured, unaware her voice was now a matter of public record. He'll calm down. He always does. He didn't. Marcus stepped into the light of the great room and positioned himself between the camera and the city beyond the glass. Manhattan glowed, indifferent and vast. Vivian, he said, a calm man addressing a storm. Look at me. She turned and saw the screen, the red live badge, the chat racing, the number at the corner ticking upward like a clock counting down. Color fled her face. What is the truth? Marcus said. No. She set the wine down with a porcelain clink. No, you will not do this to me. Turn it off. He didn't move. You've been speaking freely for several minutes. Her eyes darted to the lens, calculating angles, adjusting posture. She reassembled the smile that had opened doors for years. Everyone watching, she said, voice smoothing to velvet. What you've heard is out of context. I was protecting a child from broken glass. That is all. A beat. Then the comments erupted again. Faster, sharper, unforgiving. Vivian faltered. She had prepared for whispers. She had not prepared for a chorus. But the worst part for Vivian wasn't what she'd already said. It was how many thousands had heard it, and how many more were about to join. She pivoted to camera, performance instincts snapping into place. Let me be perfectly clear, she began, palms open in practiced contrition. I love children. I support children's charities. This is a misunderstanding fueled by an employee who regrettably has violated trust. A hiss threaded the live chat. There it is, gaslighting. She's blaming the maid. Typical. Vivian pressed on, flashing a pained smile. The child panicked after an accident, as any responsible adult would. Marcus raised a hand. Calm, precise. One moment. He tapped his phone. The room filled with Vivian's own voice from 10 minutes earlier, clean and cold from the recording. Fear is the only language they know. I tell them to remember their place. If Marcus makes this difficult, I'll activate Plan B. Vivian's smile cracked. That's edited, cut and spliced. He's twisting. Another playback. People like that should never forget their place. Her mother's voice chimed faintly beneath. You must be firm, Vivian. The chat window detonated. I'm screen recording this. Send to every board she sits on. Tag the DA, children's charities, seriously. Vivian straightened, eyes bright with fury and fear. Marcus, stop this. You have no idea what you're unleashing. This is our life, our reputation, my work. Your work, he said evenly, has been terror, dressed as tutoring. She reached for something, anything to throw as a rope. Carmen has stolen. Careful, Marcus said. The single word was a ledge. He toggled a third clip, lower, crueler, the one that bent the chat into silence. I showed the bracelet. If they make trouble, I'll hide it in their bag. Vivian's face emptied. For a heartbeat, the comments slowed, as if the audience inhaled together. Then the avalanche came. This is criminal. Frame job on camera. Call CPS. Blacklisting her now. Vivian's hand shook. She reached blindly for the glass, missed, and steadied herself on the back of a chair. Please, she whispered to Marcus, to the camera, to the collapsing scaffolding of her status. You're making a mistake. He didn't argue. He didn't need to. And still, Marcus wasn't finished, because the most devastating evidence wasn't his voice or hers. It was the truth spoken by those she'd tried to silence. The doorbell buzzed. A precise, professional tone. Diana Rodriguez entered with 2 investigators, small cases, clipped badges, practiced calm. She took in the scene with a lawyer's eye, shards at the threshold of the great room, a child's bandaged knee, a woman frozen in performance, a man holding a tablet like a mirror. Marcus, Diana said, nodding. Carmen, Zara. She softened at the child. We're here to help. Vivian rallied, grasping for authority. You can't just, this is private property. Diana's smile was surgical. So is abuse. And yet here we are. She set a small camera on the console, checked the angle, confirmed consent with a look to Marcus and a steady nod from Carmen. Then she positioned a lapel mic. Carmen, she said, voice even, do you feel safe to speak? Carmen's eyes flicked to Vivian, an old reflex, and then to Marcus, who answered with a simple, grounding nod. She inhaled, held the breath as if it might blow her off a cliff, and began. She tells me that we should be grateful, Carmen said, words trembling out of hiding, that we don't belong in rooms like these, that if I cause trouble, I'll lose work, that she'll make sure no one hires me again. She swallowed. She said she would hide a bracelet in my bag to teach us a lesson. Diana's pen moved once, a mark that meant we have it on the record. Does she say these things in front of your daughter? Diana asked. Carmen's voice thinned. Yes. Zara, Diana said gently, angling the smaller mic toward the child. Do you want to tell me if Mrs. Vivian ever told you something that made you feel small? Zara glanced at her mother. Carmen squeezed her hand. Permission. The child lifted her chin, the smallest amount. She said, girls like me don't belong here, and that we should remember our place, because of our color. Silence. Thousands watched, and for a beat it felt like all of them were holding their breath. Vivian stepped forward. desperate. This is absurd. She's a child. Children miss here. Children. Enough, Diana said, authority like a gavel. We are taking sworn statements. You are advised to remain silent. Vivian froze as the weight of sworn landed. The comments changed 10 or less shock, more structure. I'm an attorney, this is ample for an injunction. Journalist here DMing Marcus for verification. Clipping this segment for evidence. Diana met the camera squarely. For the record, she said, crisp and clear, we have contemporaneous admissions on audio, corroborating testimony, and a child's statement. This is sufficient to initiate protective measures. Vivian wavered. Behind her, the city kept shining cold, bright, merciless. The truth was no longer a private burden. And what had been Vivian's greatest strength, her public persona, had become the stage for her undoing. Phones vibrated. Screens lit the room with a new kind of light. Alerts, headlines, notifications stacking faster than anyone could read. A reporter tweeted the stream link with one word: listen. Within minutes, national outlets stitched the clips into threads. Philanthropist under fire. Child endangerment allegations. Classism, racism, coercion on tape. Vivian's phone exploded with messages. The charity group text: effective immediately, we're suspending you. The country club liaison: membership under review. A foundation chair: we cannot be associated with this. Her mother: say nothing, delete everything, come home. She went pale. They're overreacting, she stammered. They don't understand. I'll fix this. I can fix. You won't, Marcus said. Not unkindly, simply stating a fact already in motion. Not by lying, not by threatening, not anymore. She looked at him as if meeting him for the first time. You would do this to me? After everything? You did this to yourself, he said. I just turned on the lights. She hardened, striking back in the only language left. Then hear me clearly. I will take half. I will take more than half. I will bury you in court. I have 3 years of texts, of your stress, of your temper, of... Diana raised a hand, calm as a tide. Please proceed with that threat on the record. Vivian went silent, suddenly aware of the trapdoor beneath her feet. Vivian, Marcus said, voice low. You built your power on fear. But fear is paper in a match's mouth. It burns when the air changes. In the chat, a donor wrote, funding a legal fund for Carmen and Zara. DMing Diana now. A CEO cutting ties with any org that kept Vivian on their board. A teacher. Zara, if you hear this, you are worthy, you belong. Vivian sagged, the current finally stronger than her arms. Marcus, please, don't let them destroy me. She had once used please as a velvet rope. Tonight it was just a word. Even as Vivian's world unraveled, Marcus knew a live stream wasn't the end. Real protection required one more step, signed in ink and backed by law. Diana opened a folder and removed a short stack of papers, clean, clinical, heavy with consequence. Vivian Ashford, she said, each syllable crisp. You are hereby served with notice of the following: a petition for a protective order on behalf of Carmen Ndlovu and her minor daughter, Zara Ndlovu. A civil complaint alleging harassment, discrimination and intentional infliction of emotional distress, and a request for immediate investigation into child endangerment. Vivian stared at the pages as if they were written in a language she had never learned. You can't. We can, Diana said, and we have. An investigator stepped forward. Time-stamped photos already printed. Zara's bandaged knee, the scatter of shards, the position of furniture, the text of transcribed audio. Another investigator stood by the door, ensuring the delivery met process. It was not theater, it was procedure. Carmen and Zara moved, instinctively, to Marcus's side. He stepped slightly in front of them, not to block the camera, but to redirect it, to say with his body what the law would soon say with ink: here is safety. Marcus lifted the tablet, meeting the audience directly for the first time. His voice, when it came, was steady and warm. To everyone watching, thank you for bearing witness. Fear thrives in silence. It dies in daylight. Tonight, a child told the truth. A mother told the truth. And the world listened. In the chat, hearts, prayers, fists, links to resources, hotlines, pro bono firms, child advocacy groups. The stream had become more than spectacle. It was scaffolding. Vivian sank into an armchair, hands slack, eyes unfocused. The posture of a person realizing that reputation isn't a parachute, it's a costume, and costumes burn. Diana turned to Carmen. We'll arrange safe transport for tonight, alternate lodging, and immediate contact with child services on your terms. We'll also coordinate with Marcus for ongoing security. You won't be alone in any room going forward." Carmen nodded, tears finally free to fall in a place where crying would not cost her work. Zara looked up at Marcus. "Are we safe now?" "Yes," he said. No flourish, no speech, just yes. He ended the stream with a final line meant for every child who had ever learned to be silent to survive. "To anyone who needs to hear this, you belong, you are not the problem. The fear is." The live badge winked out. The room felt suddenly impossibly quiet. Not the brittle silence from before, but the kind that follows a storm. Windows wet, streets washed, air clearer than it has been in a long time. Vivian exhaled a shudder. "What happens to me now?" Diana gathered the papers, her voice professional, not cruel. "What happens is accountability." Marcus set the tablet down and glanced at the den where the intercom light still glowed. Then he looked to the door toward the next tasks. Security, statements, shelter, the work after the moment, the part most people never see. The sun crept over Manhattan, its light spilling across the glass towers and gilded rooftops. But inside the Adiemi penthouse, the glow felt different, less like morning, more like aftershock. The night had been long. Carmen and Zara had been escorted out quietly by Diana's team, taken to a safe apartment arranged within hours. For the first time in years, Carmen could breathe without waiting for footsteps, and Zara, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, slept without jerking awake. Marcus hadn't slept at all. He stood by the window, coffee cooling untouched, staring at the skyline. He had built his empire here, brick by digital brick, thinking he could control everything, markets, contracts, even storms, but under his own roof, a different storm had brewed, one he hadn't seen until it broke glass at his feet. Behind him, Vivian stirred on the couch, mascara smeared, phone buzzing endlessly. She had called every ally, every friend. No one answered. Not one. "Marcus," she rasped. "We can fix this. If you stop now, we can spin it. Say it was stress. Say Carmen misunderstood." He didn't turn.
"It's not about spinning anymore, Vivian. It's about truth."
Her voice cracked, more anger than grief. "Do you know what you've done? You've destroyed our life." "No," he said quietly. "I ended the lie." The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was anticipation, the pause before the law arrived. But this was no longer just a family scandal. The gavel of justice was already in motion. 2 days later, the courthouse was packed. Cameras flashed outside. Journalists jostled for position. Inside, the marble echoed with murmurs. "That's her. That's him. That's the maid and her child." Vivian arrived in a tailored suit, posture stiff, her lawyer whispering furiously in her ear. She looked polished again, but no mask could hide the cracks. Marcus sat calm, Diana at his side. Carmen and Zara sat behind them, protected by investigators. The little girl clutched a stuffed bear one Diana had brought, a symbol that children deserved softness, not fear. The judge entered. Proceedings began. Vivian's lawyer argued first, framing it all as a misunderstanding, accusing Marcus of emotional manipulation, painting Carmen as unreliable help. Then Diana stood. Her voice was steady, surgical. She played the recordings. Vivian's voice filled the courtroom. "Fear is the only language they know. People like that should never forget their place. If Marcus makes this difficult, I'll activate Plan B." Gasps rippled through the gallery. The judge's gavel struck for silence. Then Carmen spoke, her hands trembling but her voice clear. She described the threats, the bracelet, the humiliation. And finally Zara's words read into record hung heavy in the room. She said, "Girls like me don't belong here." The judge leaned forward, face grave. "This court takes these statements with the utmost seriousness." Vivian's mask broke. Her eyes widened, darting between the judge and the gallery that had once adored her. Vivian thought reputation could shield her, but in the courtroom the gavel spoke louder than her smile. By afternoon, the headlines flooded every outlet. Philanthropist exposed, racism, abuse and threats on livestream. Charity darling faces child endangerment probe. From socialite to outcast, the fall of Vivian Ashford. Talk shows debated her downfall. Radio hosts replayed the recordings. Social media threads exploded, hashtags trending, clips dissected, strangers voicing outrage. Past staff came forward with their own stories. Maids, drivers, caterers, tales of whispered insults, veiled threats, manipulation. Vivian's empire wasn't just cracking, it was collapsing from the inside. Meanwhile, Marcus became a reluctant figure of integrity. His calm demeanor during the live stream was praised. Editorials called him a man who chose truth over comfort. Schools invited him to speak. Survivors of workplace abuse began sending messages, thanking him for turning on the lights. But Marcus wasn't seeking applause. Each headline felt heavy, because he knew the real heroes weren't him. They were Carmen and Zara, who had found the courage to speak despite years of silence. And while Vivian hid behind closed doors, her name became synonymous with cruelty. Her charity boards erased her photos, invitations disappeared, country clubs revoked her membership. The public had judged her, and the verdict was clear. Weeks passed. The penthouse felt emptier, quieter, but no longer heavy with fear. Carmen and Zara moved into a new apartment arranged through Marcus's foundation. Sunlight filled the small kitchen. It wasn't lavish, but it was theirs, safe. Zara began therapy. At first she sat silent, clutching her bear. Slowly, words came. Her laughter, soft, hesitant, returned. She enrolled in school nearby, clutching her backpack proudly on the first day. For the first time, she believed she belonged. Carmen, too, began to dream again. She enrolled in a training program, accounting, something she'd always wanted but never dared. When Marcus visited, she said softly, "I feel free, like I can breathe without asking permission." Marcus smiled, though inside he carried his own reckoning. Protecting Carmen and Zara had reopened his own scars, memories of his mother's exhaustion, his father's silence in the face of prejudice, his own childhood moments of feeling small. But in helping them, he healed too. He had broken the cycle. He had turned his silence into action. And though scars remained, they weren't chains anymore. They were reminders, proof that survival could become strength. The wounds were still there, but so was the chance to turn scars into shields. Months later, Marcus stood at a foundation event. The hall was filled not with elites in glittering gowns, but with teachers, single parents, social workers, and children whose futures needed defending. He spoke simply, without flourish. "Fear," he said, his voice steady, "survives in silence. That's how it grows, that's how it spreads. But truth survives in the light. And when truth is spoken, fear loses its power." He paused. Carmen and Zara stood at the side of the stage, smiling shyly. The crowd applauded not for him but for them, for their courage. He continued, looking into the cameras, streaming his words live. "I ask each of you, never ignore the small signs, never dismiss the quiet flinches, because silence protects the abuser, not the abused. And when you speak, when you expose, when you stand for the vulnerable, you change everything." The hall erupted, not with glamour, with solidarity. And as Marcus stepped down, Zara tugged at his sleeve. "Mr. Marcus," she whispered, "we're not scared anymore." He smiled, eyes bright. "Good, because you belong." The story closed not in marble halls, not in headlines, but in the small, steady truth of a child who found her voice. Fear only survives in silence. Truth survives in the light. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is speak. So tell us, which part of this story struck you the most? Was it the betrayal, the exposure, the gzunzun? Share your thoughts below and let us know how this story made you feel. Because the most powerful stories are the ones we refuse to keep silent. If you've been moved by this story, even just a little, don't leave without subscribing. Hit that subscribe button right now and become part of the Black Voice Matters community. This isn't just a channel, it's a family that listens, a family that speaks, and a family that lifts each other up. So subscribe today and tell us where you are watching from in the comments.